The average 15 handicapper only hits 4 greens in regulation in a round of golf and only gets up and down 1/3 of the time. So the short game is a huge area of improvement for players when it comes to lowering their scores. In this video, I'm going to show you how I, a PGA Pro, structure a practice session so that I can go on the course knowing that I'm sharp, my strikes are good, and I've got a good opportunity to get up and down every time I miss the green. So a short game session can be broken down into 3 parts for me. So I like to work on strike first, I then move on to sort of widening my arsenal of shots, so being able to hit it high, hit it low, hit it with spin, hit it running, and then I like to work on my feel, so developing a great idea of knowing exactly how far to hit it from different situations. But coming back to strike, the first thing I like to do in a session is I just hit a few shots to nowhere, just one hand only, so my trail hand or right hand for a right-handed player, and I just like to get a feel for the weight of the club swinging a little bit. I like to get a feel for making good contact with the ground, and I think when just by warming up in your short game with one hand, you're able to sort of just heighten your senses, so that when you put 2 hands on, it just feels an awful lot easier. So I might hit 4 or 5 shots, just one hand only, just trying to feel good connection with the ball, good connection with the ground, and just nice to see that ball popping up. And sort of, I'm not really trying to hit these a specific distance. Like I say, I'm just like warming my strike up. It's good to do this from like a flat piece of ground, because any amount of slope complicates things. This is just like a nice easy warm up. Get that strike going. Trying to just feel in your right arm, which is your dominant arm as a right-handed player. Feel that club swinging, feel the weight of the head, and feel a good strike on the ball. So whilst we're here, I am just doing this session with the new Cleveland RTZ Wedge. So this is a 60, I've also got a 56 or a 54, and this is a really actually impressive wedge. I've really enjoyed using it so far. So the wedge is made from a whole new material that Cleveland are actually being really secretive about, because they think it's sort of better than ever. It's 10% softer than their previous wedge. And that's really interesting, because Cleveland have actually sort of started to separate themselves in the wedge category. Their reputation is very much for wedges rather than it is irons or woods. And these wedges have pretty much gone straight in the bag of every Strixon Cleveland player out on tour, and that's because they perform so well. So it features a HydroZip face, which is a unique amount of sort of like face sandblasting and sort of some micro grooves and laser milling, which just are going to help you spin the ball loads when it's wet and damp, which is really important, because basically in England it rains all the time. So these have got UltiZip Grooves, which are like really sharp and a little bit wider, just to help clear the grass and the mud and the sand that get caught in between the ball and the club face. Again, it's going to give you masses and masses of spin. I've really enjoyed using this club because it feels pretty soft. Like, I love the fact that it feels like the ball is like stuck to the face as I'm striking it, because I can almost feel that spin happening, which is a great place to be when you're around the greens, because we rely on spin quite a lot to play shots. So once I've loosened up and I've warmed up my wedge strike, I'm then going to go into my first strike drill. So all you need here is 3 tees, and what you're going to do is put your club behind the ball, put a tee in just off the edge of the toe, put a tee in just off the edge of the heel to where you won't strike it with sort of like the hosel, and then a tee in the ground sort of just behind the club head. And I want that tee in the ground to be like pretty pushed down, but sticking up slightly to the point where you would strike it if the club was traveling too low. So what this drill is going to do for you is just help you make ball first contact. Most golfers I know and I teach who struggle with their strikes, the problem they have is the club meets the ground too soon. So the club either digs in, or they duff it, or they double hit it, and then once they've done that a couple of times, they then pull in and start knifing it. It all starts with the club getting too close to the ground too soon. So what I like is, this drill is a great one just to help you work on the feeling of the club traveling into the ground a little bit higher, hitting the ball before the ground, and then maybe a small divot after the ball. So I'll probably just hit, again, 4 or 5 shots, not really to anywhere, just trying to strike the ball clean, not hit any of the tees. Yeah, so you could sort of probably just hear there, I've just nicked that wooden tee behind the ball on the way in. So again, club maybe just traveling a little bit low into the ground. And actually I don't mind here if I start to have to hit shots out of a divot, because that again, it's going to improve your striking, help you hit the ball before the ground. So I think you should be able to hit 5 to 10 shots from this one zone without knocking any of these tees out if you're sort of fairly dialed in with your contact. And then once you leave this station, you should feel like, okay, I'm fairly happy with my technique, that I know I'm going to strike the ball before the ground and not suffer with any poor strikes when you're doing sort of like the rest of the drills. So once you've completed this drill, we can sort of tick off the strike element of our practice session. God, it's just sublime short game performance. Right, let's move on. Now, the next part of my practice session is going to be about sort of shot variety. So I'm then going to spend a bit of time hitting balls low and high. And actually what I quite like to do is play a game with myself and sort of say, right, how low can I hit it versus how high can I hit it? So the low shot, I'm going to have the ball like behind my back foot, my hands away forward, and I'm going to try and like drive it in there and play for a bit of a bounce up the slope. So when I'm hitting the high shot, I'm going to open the face right up, move that ball forward in my stance, and almost play this shallow like a bunker shot, just set off, send it straight up in the air. I like doing this for a couple of reasons. The first thing is, when I'm varying my setup like as much as I am doing in these shots, it's like developing my hands. So all the best short game players at your home club or that you would describe as having good hands. And what that means is they know how to react with the hands in order to manipulate the ball, manipulate the loft to hit good shots. So by practicing that low and high, what you are doing is sort of developing that understanding of knowing when to release the club in order to hit the shot you're trying to play. So that low one, I'm like hanging on to the loft. The high thing, I'm like releasing it super early. And I know that if I can hit a super low and a super high, when I go out on the golf course, I'm going to be pretty happy that whatever I'm faced with, whatever challenges I'm faced with, I'm going to be able to sort of give that shot a good go and not panic and just have to like chip it out sideways. I don't really put a time limit on these, like you should be doing a third here, a third there, and a third somewhere else. It really is, if my strike's good, I'll quickly move on. I'll move on to this, the low and the high. Once I'm happy with that, I'm hitting decent low and high shots, that's when I'll then move on to like my random shots to try and develop some feel. So we can move on to some more random shots and working on my touch. Right, so final phase of the short game practice session. What we're going to do now is just hit lots of random shots. So one of the skills that golfers don't practice, that I think is actually the most important skill when it comes to short game, is like the skill of prediction. So how hard do I have to hit this ball for it to go to the flag? So when you stand there and hit 20 balls from one spot to one flag, you're not training that skill. All you're doing is hitting the same shot 20 times, not 20 different shots. So it's much higher value to your game to hit many shots but totally random ones, as that's how you develop the skill of prediction. So when you're doing this, you also want to vary different lies and slopes and stuff, just so that when you get out on the golf course, you've got some idea of when the ball's on an uphill what to do, when the ball's on a downhill what to do, side slopes and good lies, bad lies, etc. So we'll start here. I'm on an upslope to a flag where I need to fly it most of the way. So when I'm on an upslope, I'll generally lean into the slope a little bit just to make sure I get the ball first. Some people might tell you to sort of lean with the slope. I would only do that if there's something really high to go over. So because I don't have to do that here, I'm not gonna. So sort of a fairly normal setup. I'm just gonna lean into it, pop it up, and hopefully get it somewhere near the flag. A bit like that. Okay, shot 2. So what I've got here is a really awkward one that sort of happens a lot to me on the course for some reason. It's ball's on a down slope, but I've got to hit it high over a mound onto a raised green. So this shot, you need lots of loft. So I'm going to open the face up, give it a bit of a longer swing, release the club past my hands maybe earlier than I normally would, and try and get that ball going higher and landing softer. So I'm going to align myself to the slope here, open the face, hopefully just lob it up there. That's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. That's pretty nice. Yeah, good. So what you can see is every shot I'm hitting here is different. Random is the word, and just keep varying stuff and forcing yourself to play completely different shots to the previous one. All right, shot number 3. What I've got here is a pretty bog standard chip, but the ball's in a divot. So I'm gonna have to factor that in, get that ball back in my stance a bit, get my hands forward and really try to make ball first contact. What I'm trying to do is get this Cleveland to feel like almost like a third hand. I want my lob wedge, which I play most of my shots around the green with, to be like my magic wand, where I know exactly how far to swing it, how much to open the face to produce the shots that I want. So something I like about this wedge is it's actually full face. Now, I've never used a full face wedge before, but in what I found in this sort of random practice is I use a lot of the toe. I use a lot of these grooves either on purpose or mainly by accident, and I'm actually finding that having that full face and having the grooves right the way across the face is just helping me with control, which obviously is great. So back in the stance, out of a divot, see if I can sort of like bump and run one over there. So probably just spun a little bit too much on that first bounce, but again, it's sort of inside 5 feet, so I'm pretty happy with that. These wedges come in different grinds in sort of the sand lob wedge area, so the 50, 52, 54, so you don't really get that much variety in sort of grind and bounce, but in the lob wedges you do. So I've got the 8-degree bounce adapt grind, which is sort of for every type of shot. There is a lower and a higher bounce option as well, for depending on where you play. So right, let's chuck one in the bunker and see if I can play a reasonable bunker shot with this wedge. Right, shot 4 is a bunker shot, so I've probably got a 20-yard bunker shot here. I've got lob wedge in hand. I'm on a slight upslope with a reasonable lie. So this is a fairly sort of like stock bunker shot. Ball's forward, face is open. It's a fullish swing hitting behind the ball, and I'm going to sort of try and fly it most of the way there. Sort of dug that out a little bit, but it's not done too badly. It sort of flew, didn't spin like I'd hoped, but a pretty reasonable shot. But actually the club and ball sort of felt really nice through the sand there. I'm quite happy with that. I think I was leaning a bit too much into the slope, so the club got a bit stuck after the ball had gone, so it could have been better, but actually that was pretty good. And nice to see that ball going high and landing relatively soft. So this is a great shot to practice because it's something that everybody fears. So if you've got a practice ground like Fulford where you've got a few different bunkers, a few different flags and loads of options of shots around the green, you should definitely be practicing your lob over a bunker, especially off a scruffy lie. Don't give yourself like a princess lie around the greens where it's basically teed up, because that never happens on the course for some reason. So a bit of a scruffy lie over a bunker. Just having that sand in your eye sort of gives you the sort of anxiety of the fear of the duff into the trap. So again, great to practice. What I'm really thinking here is ball first, just like all the other shots really. Open face, ball first, I'm leaning forwards, good strike, and then chase the ball up to about 3 feet. So hopefully you've enjoyed that and maybe learned something. Go give that session a try. If you do that a couple of times a month before your next comp in April, I can pretty much guarantee your short game will be vastly improved. Your touch around the greens will be great, and you're going to find yourself saving shots rather than costing yourself shots. If you stuck around to the end, thank you very much for watching the whole video. If you don't subscribe, please can you subscribe? That'd be great. It helps boost the numbers on the video and helps present us with more interesting opportunities to create content. Now, I've absolutely loved using this wedge. The RTZ is really good. It's a really high quality wedge, loads of spin, the feel off the face is fantastic, and Cleveland have sort of just knocked it out of the park. They've been making great wedges for a few years now, and this one is a pretty good level above where the previous one was, so well done them. And yeah, if you've watched the video, leave me a comment. Am I missing something out of my short game session? Is there anything that you think I should be practicing, or anything that you do in your session that I'm not? And again, yeah, just thanks a lot for watching.